Controversy in gaming is nothing new. There have always been things in the industry that have rubbed people the wrong way for one reason or another. There were games like Custer's Revenge for the Atari 2600, for example. One franchise that has managed to collect controversies is Bayonetta, which is a franchise I personally absolutely love. I've been playing through all 5 games on stream. Yes, you heard me. 5. I count Bayonetta 8-bit as the 5th game. Since the release in 2009, people have been talking about this game, and not because of the amazing combat and stellar design work. Playing through these, working on my Oni Chumpbaro Worst of the Worst video at the time of writing, which if you're watching this now is already out, go check it out. And in my free time I'm going through and playing Stellar Blade. Apparently attractive women in gaming is a theme for me lately. The first major controversy for the franchise was with the first release. The pearl clutching was quick with this one, and that is because the game is deemed too sexual and appealing to the male gaze. People seem to be currently pretending that wasn't really a thing that happened, but even with good review scores, there were plenty of talk about how she was setting women back in gaming by decades. I feel like I've been hearing that a lot lately. In a lot of reviews, there's a lot of discussions about how amazing the game feels, but they can't help but talk about how sexy she is or how over-sexualized she is. The biggest name to talk about this one was the famed Anita Sarkeesian.
The game stars a character named Bayonetta. It's your basic story of a shape-shifting witch dressed in skin-tight leather who can turn into giant cats and has a small arsenal of weapons, including whips.
It's clear she never actually played this game or even bothered to look into it before trying to drum up the fake outrage.
And of course she's lost her memories, and there's some evil demon horde, and there's a magical gem of the world, something, and so forth, but all of that is besides the point when it comes to this game. First, the positive things about the game. She's a single mother, and that's kind of it.
The Discord about this online is ugly. I'll read from a thread on Giant Bomb discussing it, and wow. Here's the highlights. First off, the obvious, just how fucking horny is the game is for Bayonetta. Not a good sentence. The camera angles and her skimpy outfits and poses feel lame. Stop staring at her ass, tits, groin. One person having the exact opposite of view on the sexual nature. I begin to wonder if people who say they are offended by sexy characters in games are actually personally offended by them, or they have been conditioned into believing they must express offense at literally any display of sexiness in order to be considered a social, responsible person. And this is where it gets ugly. They are allowed to feel how they feel. Way to be as douchey as humanly possible in addressing that aspect of it. By the way, a little extra brownie points for the original poster because this is what they ended up responding. And I thought this was pretty level-headed, so positivity. Don't be so defensive. I would argue there is much more room for douchey activity than what this guy is saying. He hardly registers on the scale. Like, if there was a way to measure the amount of douchiness that a person could express in regards to this topic, he is not even at the halfway point. Perhaps he should be allowed to express his opinion without being called a douche after the first post. It really does just devolve from here. I hate forums. Now, this was the first major controversy I experienced because in 2009, when the first game was released, I actually wasn't gaming a whole lot at the time in my life, and I certainly didn't care what the internet said about different situations involving it. The original voice of Bayonetta, Helena Taylor, was not going to be returning as the iconic voice by her own choice. She even went as far as to call for a boycott, saying that they were underpaying and undervalued her. Now, looking back in hindsight, you can say a lot of things about the situation, but at the time, people really supported her on most of it. Even Moist Critical, Charlie, had a bad take on this one.
This is Platinum Games and Nintendo spitting on her and the internet was rightfully upset. Bayonetta is an iconic character. It's a very big title. It's one that I'm sure most people at least recognize, even if they don't play the games themselves, because the character's very popular. And a large part of it is thanks to Helena Taylor's work as Bayonetta. I did see a couple of bah-humbugging Scrooges out there that were saying, who cares about Helena Taylor? She didn't make the character, she just voices it. And I feel like that's just such a brain-dead take. Like, if you really don't care about the voice acting, then play your game on mute every time there's a cutscene and see how much fun you're having there.
But as more information came out, he didn't double down like a lot of people did. In fact, he called it as the facts were shown.
Internet drama is a lot like a Pokemon. It can always evolve, and that's exactly what we've seen today. A very spicy piece of drama recently just entered into its metamorphosis stage, and now it's about to pop out of the larva and become a beautiful butterfly. And unfortunately, this butterfly is coming with bad news. It seems like we may have all been lied to, fed a fib, played for a fool, schmeckeldorfed. It's in regards to the Bayonetta 3 situation. I recently made a video covering all of the drama with Bayonetta 3, and within 24 hours of posting this video, the entire situation got flipped on its ass with a stunning plot twist the likes of which George R.R. Martin could only dream of writing. And it's left me out in the rain, cold, scared, and wondering where everything went wrong.
In my opinion, people should have waited to condemn the company and waited for facts, but I also 100% understand the outrage. Having friends who do voiceover work myself, it's easy to see. Let's discuss what she said though. The biggest claim that she made was she was trying to negotiate for better pay, as most people would actually do. But the final offer that was given to her was $4,000, making the claim that people were struggling while the top percentage of people were living large. Now here's a shocker. All of this is true. Kinda. Sorta. Just not how she presented it.
Hello, my name's Helena Taylor, and I am the voice of Bayonetta, and I would like to explain to you why I didn't voice Bayonetta 3. Bayonetta franchise made an approximated $450 million. That's not including merchandise. And what did they think this was worth? What did they offer to pay me? The final offer to do the whole game as a buyout, a flat rate, was $4,000 US. This is an insult to me. The amount of time that I took to work on my talent and everything that I have given to this game and to the fans. I am asking the fans to boycott this game and instead spend the money that you would have spent on this game donating it to charity.
Yes, the last offer was for $4,000, and she said it was for voicing the entire game. The reality situation, she was offered $10,000, and after asking for more, she would have received $15,000, which is significantly higher than her claims. After being replaced by Jennifer Hale, she was offered $4,000 flat rate to make a cameo. So in the end, Platinum Games were throwing her a bone, and yet she turned it down. She then called for a boycott, saying how the money that would be spent on the game should go to charities. Apparently some people found these charities rather questionable. I didn't look into them because it's too political, not into it. She claimed that because the value of the franchise is roughly just under $450,000, she deserved more of that money. I wanted to do a breakdown for the sales and the values of the game franchise, but there were a lot of things that weren't exactly making a whole lot of sense to me. Not a math major. We can easily find the game sales, but there isn't a lot of information on the cost of production, how much Platinum Games were contracted to make the game, or any other impactful information. One thing that is kind of forgotten though that needs to be pointed out, that Platinum Games is a studio that makes AA games. They are contracted by other companies to make games for the most part. Sure, they pitched the original idea to Sega, and then the sequels had their influx of money due to Nintendo, but they weren't able to make the game just on their own. In fact, When talking about the future of the franchise, Nintendo holds a lot of power if those games ever get made. So later, it did come out that Helena Taylor outright lied about what happened. She completely left out important information, ruined her career. Thankfully, it did seem like the internet spread the word of what was going on fast enough so it didn't hamper the game sales too much. And despite what Taylor thinks, Jennifer Hale is the voice of Bayonetta, and she can call herself that if she wants.
Last night, a Bloomberg article came out that really absolutely changed the entire situation here. Bloomberg, more like Boomberg, because this shit was a bomb. The report comes from two people who were familiar with the negotiations, and the documentation was reviewed by Bloomberg and confirmed to be genuine. So according to them, Platinum Games really wanted to get Helena Taylor back in voicing Bayonetta. According to the documents, they didn't offer her $4,000 for the entire game. They offered her up to $4,000 per session for 5 sessions of 4 hours each. So about $1,000 per hour, which is very different than the claims Helena Taylor was leading us to believe. So
virtue signal. Notice how there was nothing about accountability for what she did with this. There's no sort of accountability. My post hit a nerve with people because you lied. That's what this all boils down to. You lied about this situation. You embellished it. You left out key details that would definitely shift people's mindsets if you would have came out in the first place and said that. That's why this hit a nerve with people. But you're still supposed to boycott this game that was pretty much going to pay me fairly and even offer me a cameo role at $4,000 that would have taken maybe an hour to record, and they respected me enough to offer me a cameo role for this, but you know, screw them. Give your money to charity, give your money to boycotting things.
But anyway, the tea continues here as Jason Schreier made this tweet, and he said, former Bayonetta voice actor Helena Taylor now confirms my reporting that she was offered at least $15,000 and that the final offer was for a cameo, despite the claims in a video that went viral last week. And so
over the past few weeks, there has been tons of talk surrounding Bayonetta 3 and Helena Taylor. She said that Platinum Games tried to rip her off, only offered her $4,000 to reprise her role as...
The last one I found mildly ridiculous because in some ways it's still ongoing. Bayonetta appealed to many different types of people. Some people gravitated towards it because of the combat and the over-the-top nature of the game. Some for the world that was being built and the uniqueness of having the angels being the aggressors. Maybe you were into the character and how she looked and acted. All of this being said, the game appealed to a very wide range of people for many different reasons. This is a really tough stance for some people. The fountain of bad takes, which is Twitter, show that people were up in arms about this franchise for almost the same number of reasons. Sure, the first game was an objectification of women according to some, then the voice actor drama. But now the game is not made for straight people. Clearly a hyperbole, but the idea that Bayonetta was for the LGBTQ plus community only was a sentiment that is still a contentious issue. I'm aware this will get some hate, but let me explain before you instantly write me off as some sort of hater. Yes, Jean and Cereza are very close. I do believe that there is some levels of bisexuality here. I feel like it's pretty obvious. But there is some evidence that she's also fond of Luca. And despite what has been quoted online, I'm having a hard time finding where Hideki Kamiya stated anywhere she's explicitly a lesbian. For the record, I don't care. I'm just a fan of the game. One thing that I did find, which was amusing to me, was him commenting on a transsexual porn star's image. And yes, she definitely looks like Bayonetta. A piece of advice from me to you, if you don't know who she is, don't look her up while on break at work. Penises everywhere. This is where we start to get into some touchy subjects. There was a massive backlash over the idea of Bayonetta's sexuality. I will not begin to understand how this ended up working out, and honestly, I didn't remember this being a thing at the time that it kind of started. I was far too focused on the fact that we'd finally be getting a third game, and trying to ignore half of the boycotting issues. Looking at this, honestly, is fairly disgusting on all ends as far as how people are treating others. But there were a few noticeable tweets that seemed to fit into the discourse of the whole thing. This is just 3 of the general issues and controversies I found with the game, and even with this is just a brief overview. This gets far more complex the more you look into it, and just wow, the coverage has been bizarre. I feel like these kind of discussions come out almost once a year at this point. Did any of these issues affect your decision to play the game? If you don't really care about sexy women in gaming, check out my video on Oni Chambara for the worst of the worst. Anyways, I'm Adam the Horror Story, and if you've made it to this part of the video, thank you for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me. We're trying to get to at least 1,000 subs here soon. It would mean a lot. I think I said that twice. Yeah. Anyways, till next time, much love. Bye now.